go to the second question then. This is from a girl in the United States. She asks, what do you do when dance becomes equal parts stress and joy? God's made it possible for me to dance for so many years, and I want to glorify Him with it, but some days it is a struggle, physically and mentally, to even get through class, and I'm ever worried I'll have to quit. What's the right thing to do?
Yeah, that really hits home for me because I feel like I've experienced equal parts stress and joy in dancing for, I don't know, I guess since high school, maybe even middle school, honestly. Yeah, middle school I think was like the first injury I had, and then having to deal with injuries and then wanting to dance and enjoying dancing and not enjoying it because either I wasn't good enough or I always felt the need to prove my worth and all that. So I've definitely been there where it's equal parts. And I remember the biggest shift, I think, wasn't until, what was it, 3 years ago at this point, when I was in the company at Ballet Mag and I was promoted. And I remember now, like, even like right when I was promoted, I was having physical pain and then also mental stress of having to like, okay, I'm in this new group and I'm having to learn like new choreography. And so I still have the joy of the Lord because I'm dancing for Him and we're performing for Him and all this. But then it's like the stress of everything new and having to appear perfect and do your best and all that. And then I fractured my foot on tour, and like this is my first year of professional world, and then that was a whole struggle. And I was like, okay, Lord, do you want me to keep dancing? I got all healed up. I started dancing again, and then I got we were heading to Israel, and I wasn't better. Like I was just a person on that trip when we were going to dance and perform. And this was several months after that first injury. And when I was there, the Lord clearly told me about like, okay, my identity, and my identity wasn't in dancing. That was something that the Lord was using in order to proclaim His name and also build our relationship. Just because I've been a dancer since as long as I could walk. That's just a part of my personality even. And I think that's okay for it to be such a big part of your life as long as it's not all there is that defines you. And I was learning that that wasn't all that defined Abby Jane. Like I was also the daughter of God, and my security and my satisfaction and my fulfillment came just through Christ, like through knowing Him and through getting to know Him, like reading the Bible and praying and dancing for Him and not myself. And so I just surrendered dancing to Him, and then He said, okay, you're still dancing though. And I was like, okay, cool. And I got back on the saddle and started dancing again. And then I got injured again. Like I tore a ligament and fractured a few bones. So then it was like a major injury. And I had to leave the company because like there wasn't a place for me anymore because I just kept getting injured. And then again, I was like, okay, Lord, like what is the point of dancing? Because you're just going to hurt me again. Like I remember being on my floor when I got the diagnosis for the torn ligament and the fractured bones, and the doctor literally walked in. She was like, wow, that's a career-ending injury. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your bedside manner is amazing. But then the Lord was so sweet to me because He brought in a PA who comforted me. And then the person who put the cast on my foot was a father of a daughter. And so he comforted me in like a very like father figure way. And it was just so sweet that I had never met these people before, but the Lord brought them on that day to comfort me. And then later I was home alone, just laying on the floor. And I remember again, like thinking, Lord, like you told me to dance, and so I did it for you. So why am I injured now? Like, why am I hurting now? And again, He was just saying, like, even when you don't understand, continue to trust me. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm going to trust you, even though I really do not understand. And then I got back into dancing, and I went to Asia and I danced, and I got injured again. Like, I don't know why. It's just part of my walk, and it's a part of this life. And there should be a jewel in my crown when I get to have the suffering I have experienced. But you know what? Like, still, I wouldn't take I wouldn't wish for any of that to have been different. And it's kind of
Mm.
great that I'm at that point, because there was a time where I had wished, one, that the injuries never happened, or two, that I never cared to dance. Like, I wish that my desire to dance would just go away, because it was annoying to continue to want it, and all it did was bring me pain. But again, like, I even still want to dance, and I'm not even fully better. Like, my ankle is still kind of stuck. My knee is great from my injury in Asia, but you know, I definitely understand the equal part stress and joy, because like some things just don't make sense in this world, whether it be with dancing, of having the injuries and with just wanting to dance, or whether it be in any other field. Like, there are times where it's equal parts stress and joy, or it's more stressful than joyful. And you're like, well, why am I even doing this? But if the Lord has placed you where you are, then you stay there planted and you grow there. However difficult the pruning season is, however difficult the growing is, it's, if the Lord has planted you, you go there. But as far as like, okay, having to figure out, is this the Lord telling me to stop this and move on to something else? Is this the Lord telling me to surrender it and let go of it? Well, the thing is that I've learned is it's always a good thing to just surrender whatever it is and leave it up to the Lord. It's not in your hands anyway, so why pretend that it is? And then you'll be able to see the beauty of the Lord, and you'll get a clear answer as far as to, okay, what you've surrendered, the Lord wants you to hang on to it. Or what you've surrendered, now the Lord is giving you something better. So it just sort of depends. But I think living a life of surrender, you're always going to get whatever good gift the Lord has planned for you. You don't want to hang on to something that was only for a season, or hang on to something that he doesn't want for you. It's always best to just leave your hands open, surrendering whatever he has given you, and then being prepared for whatever the next thing is. And for me, it's kind of weird, because like all I ever do is get injured, and yet I still want to dance and still kind of feel that pull to dance. And I don't know what that's going to look like in the future. Right now, I'm just a dance teacher, and that's great. And I don't know if in the future that's going to change, or if I'm going to continue to be a dance teacher. I don't know, but it's up to the Lord. And to surrender that is where your peace is going to come from, and where your contentment is going to come from. So when it becomes stressful and joyful, is it because like dance is just difficult and it's causing you all these pains, or is it something else? Or is it like how you see yourself, or whatever? Like, what is it that's causing that stress? Like, whether it be physical or mental. And then again, like what we've already talked about in the realms of like figure and mental side of things, like cling to truth and work on self-discipline in a healthy way. And then it's just going back to surrendering to the Lord and submitting to him and trusting in him. And you're only going to be able to do that with his help. And so you got to run to him when you're having these stressful times. So that's just like a little personal testimony too.
That's an amazing testimony. So you've had so many injuries in the past. If an opportunity rolls in, a dance opportunity rolls in, would you be scared to take that because of possible recurring injuries, or would you just take it because it's from the Lord? Like, how do you know if it's the right timing?
Well, right now I'd be a little scared to take it since my ankle isn't better. And I know that last time when I didn't wait for my ankle to be better, I ended up injuring my knee. Like, this is just practical. Like, if you have one part of you that's not functioning and you start to compromise, then you're going to cause injuries in other areas. And honestly, that's been my issue. If I look back at all of my injuries, like, yes, I think there was spiritual warfare in a lot of it, but I also think it was me thinking I was invincible. We're not invincible. Like, you got to take care of yourself. And that I should have conditioned for it. I should have not pretended like I was in a different body that could handle it all. Like, I had bad knees and I wasn't taking care of it, or I had bad ankles and I wasn't taking care of it. I have scoliosis and I wasn't taking care of my back. Like, I wasn't doing things to take care of the body that I had been given. And so practically a lot of problems came from that. And then spiritually, I know that there's a lot of spiritual warfare as well. But I think that if an opportunity presented itself for me to dance, I would first off have to see, like, okay, what kind of dancing is it? can I do it right now? Because there's a lot of dancing I could do with a bum foot, but it depends. But if it's like ballet, I would have to say, you're going to have to wait because I'm not ready. But then the Lord could make me ready. I don't know. So I guess it kind of depends on if an opportunity presented itself. Like at first, when you were answering that question, I'd be like, heck yeah, I'm scared. But then, you know what? I've gotten through everything else. So it's like, whatever, or this world, we're not promised to have smooth sailing. Like you're actually promised hardships. But the beauty is, in those hardships, we cling to the Lord more and we get to see more of his beauty. And so how great would it be if, like, when we didn't have hardships, we clung to him just as much. We would still see so much beauty like we did in the hardships. And I'm like preaching to myself right now too. But yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on it. It's just like if the opportunity presented itself, I'd have to be hardcore in prayer since I'm not physically ready. So it would have to be either the Lord would be like speaking to me super clearly, or I just have to turn him down to be practical about it. Like I'm not an invincible human being.
Maria?
I will just add a tiny little thing, which is a question actually. Do you know who you are outside dancing? Do you know who you are outside the ballet studio? Do you know who you are outside the stage and the rehearsals and all the ballet world or the dance world? That's a good question to ask ourselves, because sometimes we realize, oh, actually, I don't know. And when suddenly we cannot dance anymore, it can also be an opportunity to really work those hard questions through with the Lord. And also, I really want to say, don't be afraid of seasons where there is no dancing. There is a time for everything in life. Even the Bible says so. And there is a time for dancing and there is a time for no dancing. And the seasons where there is no dancing can be the season where you will grow the most, where you will learn the most, and that will be the most helpful for you as a dancer later on in life. And we all know about those dancers, professional dancers, who had to take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years sometimes out of the dance world because of really bad injuries, and who made it back. For some of them, it was also a family choice, because women wanting to have a child and having to be out for 1 year, 2 years, and they made it back. And most of those dances, they have really encouraging testimonies about it, saying how much they came back stronger because they knew themselves better.
So let me read out our final question for the day. It's from a girl in the United Kingdom. She says, is dance self-centered? And I like this question because I often think maybe I am doing dance for selfish reasons. It's so hard to not be self-centered in dance because dancing is a lot about what you do. But is dance self-centered?
I mean, it can be, like you were just saying, but it doesn't have to be. Like personally, I was not trained in a Christian dance world. I didn't know about the Christian dance world until high school or a senior in high school, and went to go be with Ballet Mag. Like as a child, I danced with a Christian dance studio, but I guess I forgot about it along the way. So like I was trained that dance is self-centered. Like that's how I was trained. And even if you look at, since I was trained in ballet, like you look at the origins of ballet, the whole thing is founded in self-centeredness and in elitism. And it was all about like the royals and hierarchy. And it was about like looking your best and being impressive and impressing the king. And so the origins of ballet, for instance, can cause this ripple effect of it still being about self-centeredness and about yourself. But since dance is a part of every culture, right? And surely it's existed since the beginning of time if the Lord himself dances, right? So the origin of dance, like the overall general thing, I don't think is self-centered. It's just because we're humans and we're really good at making things all about us that it can become self-centered. So it's again about your mindset. Like even now sometimes, well, I mean, I guess I'm not dancing so much now, but recently, like when I was dancing, I could even be dancing something Christian and something for the Lord, but I could be thinking all about myself and how good I look or how good I want to look or whatever. So clearly it can be. So it's about disciplining the mind and transforming your mind and making sure that your mindset isn't on yourself, but it is instead on glorifying the Lord and speaking to the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good, and it's a really it's a really good question. And I guess everything can become self-centered as soon as you switch your focus from God to me, me. And then it will become self-centered, whatever you're doing, actually. And ballet or dance, it can be a good, a fertile territory for selfishness or self-centeredness. That's true. So we have to be extra careful about it. And remember that we don't just have a passion, but we have a God-given mission. And the purpose of it is to serve Him. It's to serve the Lord.
And also like examples in the Bible of when dance is not self-centered, like clearly David, like dancing before the ark, he clearly did not care what he looked like if his wife was like, boy, what you doing? You know, like he clearly didn't care about his title of being a king. Like he was just a child of God in that moment. Like he was just dancing and his like, you know, little t-shirt and was just going for it. And so that is clearly depiction of not being self-centered. Or like Miriam when they after the Red Sea, like she was like, I don't care, I'm gonna praise the Lord, you know, like again, like those are two clear depictions of when it's not self-centered. So it can be because we're just human, but it doesn't have to be. And there are scenarios of it not being.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe this is slightly different to self-centeredness, but I think it's still a kind of self-centeredness where you're worried about the steps or execution of the movements because you have certain choreography that you have to perform. And I sometimes find myself thinking more about the choreography than the message that we're trying to convey because I'm not too confident about the steps that I am going to perform on stage. And in that case, one practical thing that helped to me was really practicing it before so that you can actually focus on the message that you want to convey on the performing day. But do you think that's because it's on stage? Whereas if you're dancing in your personal space for the Lord, then you don't have to worry about any steps, and that's easier to take the focus away from yourself.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful not to let the enemy steal our joy. That is really important because, of course, the enemy doesn't want you to perform a ballet where you're going to spread the message of the gospel. And so we have also to take authority in Jesus' name, especially before a performance, because it is an important mission that you're about to do and an important message that you are about to release. And the enemy doesn't want you to release that message. And so that is really important to remember. There's always a warfare going on. And so to really stand your ground and in Jesus' name, that the enemy won't steal your joy of performing and also enjoying dancing, because of course you're allowed to enjoy dancing. And you're not just dancing by yourself with other dancers around you. You are most of all dancing with the Lord, and He is dancing with you.
Yeah, and Cozy, you even mentioned like practically, like just like when you have those times of dancing on stage and performing, of okay, like go over the choreography beforehand, like feel confident in it so that you're able to, well, what one, do well, like in the choreography. Plus, if you're not doing a solo, you're dancing with other people. So if your mind isn't on the steps, then practically you're probably gonna look a little wrong and it might mess up the choreography. So like practically, like you need to take time to feel confident in the steps. So then you're able to do a little bit of both, of remembering the Lord and then also the steps. And then Marianne brought up a good point of like not letting the enemy steal the joy, because when you start to focus so much like on the steps and looking so good and everything, then that not only it's bringing your focus away from the message that you're portraying, but yeah, it's stealing your personal joy of being able to experience the Lord.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. We had interesting discussions today. And I think this is something that we struggle so much as dancers. And I think it's fine to be struggling with it. You know, it's okay to struggle. We have to keep taking little steps forward with the Lord. Any final comments on this topic? You know, I personally have an interesting thought. You know, like, because I'm a short dancer, I'm 5 foot. And in the ballet world, now the trend is you have to be tall to become a dancer. That's something you can almost do nothing about. How do you reconcile that? You just wish for the ballet world to change?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's where prayer comes into play, you know? Like Marianne, I remember back when we were trainees and talking to you about like redeeming ballet for the Lord, because clearly the origins, yes, were very selfish and all about being like just like this epitome of perfection. But I don't think it has to be. Like, I think that this style can be redeemed for the Lord. Because Cozy, like, I've watched you dance, and I think you're a beautiful dancer. And the styles of, you know, contemporary and liturgical, but also ballet. Like, I remember watching you, and you traveled more than like the 5 or 7 or whatever girls. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like she's flying, you know? Like, I was so impressed. And I really am impressed. And I think it has to do with whoever the leaders of these companies have to change their thinking and stop thinking like, oh, but I want this perfect balancing body that doesn't exist, or it does exist. And we shouldn't count those girls out either. Like, we can't hate on them for just needing to have bodies that don't want. Like, don't hate on them. But I think it really goes to the leaders need to change their thinking. And Christian world leaders need to switch their thinking too. Like, they talk about wanting diversity and then they don't. So I think it goes back to prayer, you know, like praying for those leaders in charge of those dance teams and of those dance groups for their minds to be changed, for them to recognize that people are different, and that even those that are different shapes and sizes can be just as good, if not better, than these other dancers. And also, I mean, choreography, come on, we can come up with new stuff in order to use the bodies that we have, rather than only wanting these like 5'7", 5'8" long-legged dancers, and it's only going to look good on them. Like, why not choreograph something that'll look good on the dancers that you have, you know? So I think it just goes back to praying for change and to trust that the Lord can redeem anything. Like, if he can redeem the worst of sinners, he can redeem anything, like even an art form, in my opinion. Maybe I'm crazy, but I just believe the Lord has a lot of power. So
yeah, that's really encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good point and very, very important point that you shared, Abby. And you know, guys, how passionate I am about this subject. And I think, we need to remember that the culture of ballet, it is not the culture of the Lord. And we don't want to do Christian ballet, Christian ballet with the ballet culture from this world. We ought to do things in a way that will glorify the Lord. And so you don't want to, do powder Christianity on top of the ballet world. No, I think we're really called to do it brand new for him, for his glory. Or if we don't, it won't be that surprising if we have all those Christian dances struggling with all those problems, struggling with even deadly eating disorders, or really bad self-hatred. And it comes from somewhere, it really comes from somewhere. So once we've identified it, we need to kick it out and not put ourselves under this umbrella of this messed up ballet culture that is not from the Lord.
Yeah. Well, so many times I've been angry with whoever came up with the idea of turnout.
Let's talk about it later, because there's so much that we could say about it.
Yeah. So we'll keep that for the next session then. So thanks everyone for listening. And if you have any questions, let us know, and we'd love to answer your questions in future sessions. I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.